This afternoon we're at a place called Green Bank. It's one of my favourite spots here. I've been waiting for the wind direction to be northwesterly because this is a spot where a northwesterly wind works really well. This is a spot where I've caught some of my biggest brown trout in Rutland, so it's always one of my favourite early season spots. Now the going's not been great. The last few days there's been hardly any wind and it's been quite cold, so the fishing would be awful. I came down today because it's the first day that the wind has been in the right direction and there's been a bit of cloud cover. It's still a bit bright, but I'm still going to give it a go. I was chatting to a chap who's been fishing down here, not caught anything. So I know where he was fishing, so I'm not going to fish there. I'm going to fish a bit further down. And I know what tactics he was trying, so I'm going to use something completely different. As before, I'm going to try a number of different techniques, see if I can catch a fish, but if I can't, it's a lovely afternoon out, so it's just a chance to make a nice fishy video. Hope you enjoy it. First thing to do is make sure the net is in the water. There's nothing worse than starting fishing early and not thinking you're going to catch anything, then catching a fish on the first cast and you haven't got your net in the water ready. So first things first is get the net in the water and wet. This is the spot I'm going to fish. There's a nice ripple in the water. The wind is whipping it up quite nicely. I'm fishing a washing line tactic. That's a buoyant fly on the point plus 2 buzzers below it or above it. I'm really looking for fish that are cruising just under the surface because that's where I've been catching them. In all of the 4 sessions that I've fished so far, I've had fish on the surface or near the surface. Let's get fishing. There's a really nice ripple in this water, which is why I like this spot here. The spot the chap was fishing further up on the point, there's less ripple. And the sun's quite high in the sky like this. You want as much ripple as you possibly can. Now I'm fishing washing line, which means because the wind is blowing the fly out into the water, I'm just casting the fly out and just letting it drift round in this little bay here. And if the fish are here, it's quite shallow water, so if the fish are here, they will come. I don't have to worry about catching the bottom because I've got a buoyant fly on the point, which will bring the flies high up in the water. Now, I will do a little bit of a figure of 8 retrieve just to put a bit of life into the fly. In the first couple of casts, I will try and cast the fly out as far as I can and gradually bring it in. What I'm trying to do is to cover the water between me and the limit of my cast to see if there's a spot where the fish are maybe sitting and then cover that spot again. I'll also make a couple of casts in a fan shape so I can cover slightly different parts of the water. Now this is a lovely bay here because I can cover probably 40 to 50 yards of really nice water and I've got it to myself. No one's really fishing down here. And the purpose of this video is really to see if I can catch a fish as close as possible to my house. This point is only 2.5 miles from where I live. I'm hoping I keep the cloud. That's a nice big cloud up there that should be here for about the next 10 or 15 minutes. I need the cloud cover. If it gets really quite bright, it'll be quite a difficult afternoon. Fish haven't got any eyelids, so if the sun's out, the fish go deep in the water. Now that was a decent cast, so we can let that one come around. Same as before, when I start fishing, I'm not doing anything. I'm just letting that line come around. The last time I tried the figure of 8 and brought it in, this time I'm actually going to just let it come around gradually. Hiya!
You doing a film then?
Yep.
Got any action?
No, it's been quiet. I've only been down. This is only my second cast.
All right, okay.
There was a chap was fishing off the point. He was leaving just as I arrived. He said he's had nothing. He'd been there for about 2 hours.
That's still a cold wind, isn't it?
It's that I've not been out for about 4 or 5 days because it's just been too cold and too bright. Well, to be fair, when the earlier trips I did off Yellowstone and actually off the Finches, I was having to throw it a long way out to get them. They were all taken at the... Oh! That's not the bottom because it's a washing line. Oh, there's maybe a bit of hope then. Tight lines, mate. Now that was a tug, and it's always the same that if you're chatting to somebody, it's when you're not paying attention is the time that the fish comes, and that was definitely a tug. And because I'm fishing the washing line, that means that that fly is quite close to the surface, and that couldn't have been the bottom snagging because there's no way I can be on the bottom with a fly that's effectively floating right on the top of the surface. So there is a bit of hope here. And that was good intelligence that the chap told me that fish had been caught here in the last couple of weeks. Similarly, like me, he's not fished for 4 or 5 days because the conditions have been just a little bit cold and bright. And those two things really don't work well together if you're trout fishing. I've fished this spot here and had a take. I'm going to move maybe another few feet to the right and cast again and keep doing that same process, systematically moving, because we know what happened last time out. We didn't get anything for ages and then all of a sudden moved to a new spot and caught a fish. Now there's also a line of trees over there which is providing some natural cover, so I have a feeling that there might be fish in and around that tree line. A lot of guys fishing off the point. So that's the chap that's just joined me. He's fishing off the point further up, and there are a few other people fishing on the other bank. They've got more of the wind behind them, but I just like this corner. I've caught a lot of big fish in this corner. The 2 biggest brown trout I've ever caught were caught in here. Again, we'll move a little bit further, 6 feet at a time. It is a lot colder today than it has been. Warmer than it's been for the last few days, but compared to last week, it does feel more like, it probably feels more like February than April, or March probably. February's probably being a bit pessimistic. I'm keeping an eye on the chap to the left because he's using complete opposite tactics to me. He's using lures and fishing them fast. So I'm keeping an eye over my shoulder to see if he catches if I'm not. So now we'll do the opposite. We've tried going to the left, we'll try going to the right. We'll now try fishing over to the left a little bit closer to the camera, because I've not fished this spot yet. A little bit higher here, which I think will help in terms of casting the fly line out. Oh, that's a good line. If I don't get a fish on this cast, I'll put a sinking fly in the point. Probably the cormorant. And I'll fish it a little faster. I think we're going to lose that cloud cover quite soon. I've noticed the guy to the left of me, he's changing tactics quite quickly as well. I mean, that is really a good fisherman change tactics. That's how you catch fish. It's not about just fishing one fly all season long. You have to try different things. So next up I'm going to try a cormorant on the point and see if the fish are maybe a little bit more deep in the water. Right. We'll try the cormorant. Now the retrieve will be a little bit faster with this. The wind's changing direction slightly. It's now coming a little bit northeast. Now for this, I'll bring this in quite a bit faster because I think there's a real chance that I will catch the bottom here. Slightly faster. I want to try and find the bottom here. We have a friendly swan coming past to say hello. So I have to let the swan get past before I cast again. I'm always terrified about catching a swan's legs, but they're very intelligent creatures. They always seem to... I've had them go across my fly line many times and never actually caught one on the legs. They're very adept at knowing when to lift their legs above the fly line. It's good, the wind's come around again. Now the cormorant I like to bring in with kind of little fast tugs and then slow ones, so fast, fast, slow. The wind's getting a little bit choppy. Now I'll try a slow retrieve. Now I'll probably snag the bottom with this, but if I do snag the bottom with the slow figure of 8 retrieve, at least I'll know that I've found where the bottom is. Now we've lost that cloud cover, pretty much lost it completely. So I'm going to give it maybe another 5 or 10 minutes and then I'll probably pack up, because when there isn't a cloud in the sky, I know for a fact that it's almost impossible to catch. One last thing to try, my good old early season tadpole with the yellow head. Fished fast. That's the only thing we haven't really done today, so we'll give that a try as well. This fly is quite heavy, so the fish seem to like when it's fished fast. Because you're not really, it doesn't look like anything that's in the water, but it's something that if there are fish cruising and they see it, they can sometimes go for it. And again, the retrieve here is very different. I'm actually bringing this in quite fast. Bit of cloud cover there. I think I'm probably going to call it quits. I don't think there's fish here. If there were fish here, I would have felt one by now. There was one take, I think, where I was chatting to that chap, but nothing else. So I think it's time to call it quits. He doesn't seem to be catching anything either, so. Right, that's enough. Time to go home.